Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a pretty special video for you guys. We're going to be going over the new NVIDIA Jetson Orin Nano Super, which is an AI inference computer on a microboard that is optimized for, like I said, AI inference and other edge computing tasks such as robotics or machine learning. Um, Here it is in my hand. It actually fits in the palm of your hand. Um, and it's really compact. Obviously, you could see its I/O ports, the heatsink, 22 pin expansion header, MIPC, CSI, camera connectors, and whatnot. Everything essentially that you would need to get going on any type of edge computing task. It's extremely good. And this video is going to be aimed at essentially a little bit of a setup guide, not exactly a walkthrough, but kind of talking about some of the more common issues that I saw when I was setting up mine. I just got mine in last week. Uh, and there's a couple issues that I think that a lot of people on YouTube aren't talking about. And then we're also going to go into just some of the common or more cool things that you can do on the Jetson. So running an LLM through Ollama, maybe distilling a model that you've already trained on your personal computer and passing it off to your Jetson for inference, or a bunch of various tasks that you can do on the Jetson. Um, but that's going to be essentially the goal of the video, is to kind of show you everything that you can do with this and all the common issues that might be causing you a headache that I've already gone through. So no headaches for you. And with that, I'm going to flip my screen and I'm going to kind of walk you through the Jetson AI Lab website, which you should be pretty familiar with by now. But if not, you're going to be pretty familiar by the time you're done setting up your Jetson. Okay, and before we begin, I kind of just want to ground ourselves on what this computer is and kind of the performance of it. So I just asked ChatGPT, give me stats on the new Jetson or a Nano Super. Uh, AI performance, 67 teraflops, tera operations of seconds, 1.7 x improvement over the previous model. It's using the Ampere architecture with over 1,000 CUDA cores, 32 tensor cores, a 6-core ARM-based CPU, which will come in handy later. 8 gigabytes of memory. You could obviously add in, an SD card, an external SSD, NVMe, which I have done on mine. It can encode videos of 1080p, 30 frames, a bunch of other stuff, and this is kind of all the I/O connectivity stuff that I had mentioned prior. Just as comparison, not just for my own knowledge and kind of just for tricks. I'm on a 3060, a GeForce RTX 3060 12 gigabyte right now, and I just wanted to see the comparisons just in flops per second. You can see it's not exactly, flops, it's tera operations per second, but 67 tera operations per second on 32, on FP32, so floating point 32 precision numbers. It's saying it's going to get 9.1 versus my GPU that I'm currently situated in is 12.7, so it's about two-thirds as good as a desktop graphics card in terms of raw compute power. So really showing that this small form factor device um, can pack a pretty big punch. Uh, but enough of that. Really quickly, I want to shout out the guy that actually I did learn this from. And that is, if I just go to Jetson Nano operating system, you're going to be able to see this guy.
Line on this little Jetson.
This guy is a beast. Go to this guy's video. Make sure you give him a like. Yep, I did. Make sure you give him a like. There's a couple things that I think aren't super clear running through the setup, but um, for the most part, the setup is gonna get you all the way there, and then coupled with my video that I'm shooting now, should be able to get you through the headaches that I had to go through. Um, but all right, now that we gave credit and kind of grounded ourselves in performance, let's get talking about setup. So obviously, I said you could just go to I'll just go to Google just to show you. So Jetson AI Lab, right? Type Jetson AI Lab in Google, and you're gonna see the home page. You can just click Tutorial Introduction here, and you can see on the sidebar, you see Jetson Setup Guide. Okay. Uh, Inside our guy Bijan Bowen's video, his Jetson was already on the right firmware, and I haven't seen any other Jetson that hasn't been on the correct firmware, which is prompted me to make this video, because the flow is actually very simple. You know, you start, check if you have a hardware, greater than 36.0, and if it is, you just kind of boot with your SD card, and you're essentially ready to go. Otherwise, you're going to need to follow down this path, which is what I needed to do. Um, so I guess I'm feeling pretty lucky. You're just going to want to go through here if you're in the same scenario. Um, if you do decide just to say, screw it, let me just see if I'm on it, if I can't really tell. I wasn't really able to tell what firmware version I was on. It's my first time doing this. I'm still a little bit new. Uh, you will end up with this screen in the end. Um, this is the screen that essentially says yours doesn't work. You need to boot with um, a older version of Jetpack, which is the Jetson operating system. So don't be worried if you see this screen. I was extremely worried, thinking that you need to connect to Wi-Fi. You need to not connect to Wi-Fi. Um, all you need to do is remove the SD card and boot with another card. So if you follow these steps, so clicking on firmware under 3.6, you should be able to download this, the Jetpack 5.1.3 image. Use Balena Etcher to flash it onto your SD card. And keep in mind, you're going to need about 20 gigabytes of space, I think, just to flash the operating system um, onto your device. So keep that in mind. Make sure you have enough space and it's not going to delete anything. Um, and then you're going to enter your SD card and power on. And essentially at this point, there's a lot of words here. Essentially what happens at this point is you're going to be rebooting, rebooting, and rebooting. Okay? You're going to have to reboot your firmware. You're going to be able to open back up. Once it reboots, you're going to open back up into the Jetson terminal. You're going to be able to enter this command. Um, and you should see something like this. If yours says bootloader slot B or update capsule or capsule update status 1, that's okay. Mine said the same thing and it kind of freaked me out. But everything will work normally. Uh, you can just run this command right after, which essentially means that it'll update whenever it'll use this QSPI update to update the next boot. Update your firmware whenever there's a next boot drive. Now this process, for me, I ended up having to reboot, I think 2 to 3 times, like a total of like 4 times throughout this whole thing, which is pretty crazy. Um, but it's just rebooting the card, so it's really not a big issue. And then once you know that you have the correct firmware, you're going to be able to go back to essentially the start of here, where you're going to be able to boot with your Jetpack 6.2. So you're going to re-download now your 6.2, your Jetpack 6.2 operating system, flash that onto the same SD card, and now reinsert that back into your Jetson. Reboot, reboot, reboots. That's going to be a pretty common thing. Um, and you should open up into the GUI. Um, and here you can see where you can see, like at the top of the screen, you'll be able to see your power modes, the 15 watt, 25, max and super, stuff like that. So that's just a small nuance within the Jetson setup that I wanted to kind of highlight. Um, with SSD and Docker, I think the setup is pretty simple to wrap your head around. Again, if you're struggling with this part, follow our guy's video over here. He has an NVMe setup, and it's something that you're definitely going to be using if you're going to be loading large language models onto your device. Um, but that's kind of it for the main watchouts in the setup. I think everything else is going to be pretty straightforward in your setup of the Jetson. Just obviously make sure that uh, if you don't know the firmware version, you can go through with path A or path one here of saying yes that you do it, but you might end up running into this error. Don't be afraid if you run into this error. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just means that you need to be booting with an older version of Jetpack, and that version is over here. And you can just follow these steps and keep refreshing, refresh until you get to here. Run these two commands, refresh, um, and everything will work properly. Alright guys, welcome back. Excuse the cut in the video. I just needed to plug in my Jetson Nano to my Wi-Fi router and also a power supply. But at this point of the video now, we're going to be just going over some of the cool things that you can do with your device. So whether it be running an LLM on device, uh, distilling a model, a vision model for real-time inference to your Jetson, or just SSHing and just being able to just overall controlling your device without using a monitor. We're going to be going over that right now. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is open up the command line. And it's important to note that when you're using SSH for two devices that are on the same Wi-Fi network, the device that you're trying to SSH into is going to need to be plugged into your Ethernet, like directly to your Wi-Fi router. The reason for that is because your Wi-Fi provider has something called AP blocking. AP blocking does not allow two devices on the same internet connection to talk to each other. They're not allowed to communicate, and the reason for that is obviously security and privacy. You don't want someone to join your Wi-Fi network and be able to control all the devices. Uh, so, sorry, a little sick here, but very simple stuff. But after that, after getting around that, you can kind of just set up SSH, however you please. But I'm just going to type in the command SSH Ubuntu, which is my user that I created on my Jetson, at CJ Nano, which is my Jetson's local name, and then .local, and press enter. I'm going to type in my password for my Jetson, and boom, I'm in. Okay? So pretty simple, getting around that piece. Just if you're like struggling with SSHing in, connect, use your Jetson and an Ethernet port to plug directly into your Wi-Fi router, and then just continue to set up SSH as you normally would. But taking a break from the terminal really quick, you can see in NVIDIA's Jetson AI Lab, they have some more tutorials here that you can follow. The easiest one is going to be Ollama. This is probably the most popular, you know, LLM like inference serving platform. And to download, all you need to do is just run this command curl, and all these characters, a lot of stuff here. And then essentially you're going to be able to run Ollama, right away. So if I just open up my terminal back up, I can see Ollama. I already have a few models downloaded. So if I just type ollama.list, you can see I have Ollama, I have Llama 3.2.1 latest, and then I also have DeepSeek R1. So let's just run Ollama DeepSeek. Ollama run DeepSeek -R1, and this is the 1.5B model. And now we should be able to run our large language model whenever this finishes loading. Yep, I was gonna say there's an issue with this loading. Okay, so here we are now. Why is the sky blue? We'll just give it one query just so that we can see what's going on. And I don't need to be connected to Wi-Fi to do this, but I do need to be connected to Wi-Fi to SSH in. So the Jetson does have, these models already saved on its system. But being able to SSH in and run the commands, um, I will need to do that. So I can just exit. Uh, Give me 1 second while I figure out how to exit. I think it's by. Yep, perfect. So that's a quick LLM tour. Ollama is pretty simple. These are all the available commands. But you can essentially just do Ollama download and then Ollama run, and this will download and serve the model for you. The other cool thing that I think you can do on your Jetson is distill a model. So here I'm just pulling up a script that I wrote. So I wrote two scripts. I trained two convolutional neural networks on classifying both math symbols, and rock paper scissors. So this would be a rock, paper, scissor. Pretty simple. Three classes, and I used the same model essentially for all of them. So you can just kind of just glance over the transformations that we're doing. The number of classes, batch size 32, okay. Here's the architecture. So there's three convolutional blocks followed by three nonlinear activations and a max pooling layer of 2x2 stride. Um, and it's outputting into, the three classes, rock, paper, or scissor. What you can do with this is bring this model onto the Jetson and run inference on it. So you see if I just do list, and I can change directory into RPS, into my rock, paper, scissor directory, you can see where I already actually have my inference script loaded, and my model, my PTH file loaded. And what I plan to do with the Jetson is essentially run real-time inference. So the Jetson will have its own camera and be able to spit out predictions. So using this prediction file. So the prediction file is pretty simple, just using open computer vision, open computer vision package. Opens the webcam, it grabs the frame. It's pretty simple. It's skipping frames. I think I have it doing every 60 frames. This one's every 10 frames. So it's essentially spitting out a prediction, whether it's rock, paper, scissor, every 10 frames, and it's going to be running the predictions on edge. And it's pretty fast as well when doing it through my 3060. One caveat with this whole thing is that because the Jetson is on an ARM-based processor, it requires a different version of PyTorch, and if you can tell, I'm actually a little bit sick. I haven't had the strength in anything really to, debug the version of PyTorch that I need versus the CUDA version that I need. But all that stuff is very, very much possible, and I'm kind of just wanted to show you just like the bare minimum, just scratching the surface of some of the stuff that you can do and where you can really take this device. So hopefully that's kind of helpful to you and kind of seeing like what other people are doing with devices, and kind of where you think that you can join the market and join the community with a cool application or even a product layer on top of this. But that's gonna really be it for today's video. So I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope that this video helped you if you are still struggling with setting up your Jetson, or you're just struggling with figuring out what to build, how to build it. Hopefully this video gives you a little bit of motivation and some confidence to head out there and keep building, be the next builders of our generation. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching. Leave a like and comment, subscribe if you like to, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.